Hello, Naomi. Welcome to the Out of the Box podcast by Road Item Company. We're so excited to have you here today. Thank you for joining us. And I don't know, before we start, do you want to give us a brief overview of who you are, what you do, and we'll get right into the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm Naomi. I'm 21 years old from Reading, England, obviously. And yeah, that's about me.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, Naomi. I'm actually quite surprised at how young you are. So with the things I've seen you do, it's just amazing what you do. So, thank God for you. I have so many questions for you today. And I guess the first thing I would like to ask is, from your work that I've seen, you're more of a artist. I've seen you do some digital work as well, digital paintings. Are there any other things that you would say you do? Or is art your main focus, your main craft that you do?
Yeah, I'd say art is definitely my main craft at the moment. I bought an iPad last year. So I've kind of been experimenting a lot more in terms of digital art, as you were saying. So I've been doing that a lot more this year, but I started off as more of a traditional artist, kind of doing drawing, painting, all that sort of stuff. And I actually did an internship last year with my church where I did a lot more photography based work and a bit of graphic design
Yeah.
ish. Can't say I was too confident in it, but yeah, so I've been definitely experimenting around, seeing kind of where I fit in the creative world, but I'm pretty sure that God's calling me to be an artist, so been enjoying that.
That's amazing. Thank you. And I guess a question that comes to mind as you were saying that is, how did you start? How did you get into art? When was the first moment you kind of realized there's a gift here? And this is what God is calling me to do.
Yeah, good question. I definitely came into the art world very reluctantly. I was very set on what I wanted to do with my life. This was as a teenager, but it really started from when I was about 8. I just fell in love with sport and decided to pursue that completely. And I invested all my time into doing various different sports and coaching and all this sort of thing. And I just had my eyes fixed straight on that. And I didn't really experiment with anything else. And, it kind of left God at a, what are you doing? Like, come on, you need to, actually search for what I want you to do instead of what I was pursuing. And then it got to a point when I was 15, and I got really poorly, and I had to stop doing sport completely. And it left me at a really kind of helpless place where I didn't know what to do with my time, with my little energy that I had. I didn't know what to do with myself. And that's when I really started to fall in love with art. I realized that I was able to express things that I was going through my artwork. And I realized that I was actually kind of good at this. Like, I didn't realize it before because I never kind of gave myself the opportunity. But when I really started to develop my skills, I saw that this was a gift that God had given me. And 2.5 years after being ill, I kind of surrendered to what God wanted me to do, and just kind of follow his calling for my life, which was art. And after that kind of decision, God healed me overnight. And now I'm just pursuing exactly what he wants me to do rather than what I want to do.
That is just amazing. I absolutely love your testimony, Naomi. Like you said, you surrendered to God, and after you did, you got healed overnight of something that literally stopped you from, doing the sport and the thing that you really wanted to go after. That is an amazing way to get your attention, isn't it? One key thing I loved that you were saying is expression. And I just wanted to, I guess, get into that a little bit more. I guess if you could just go back into that time where you were ill, and you said that you started to express yourself through art. What was that like? Were you expressing, I guess, confusion? Were you expressing pain? What was it that you were trying to express that, birthed this amazing creativity that we now see today?
Well, I think one of the beautiful things that comes with not just art, but just being a creative is this ability to communicate something that goes far more than just words, and kind of our restrictions as people, we're able to communicate something so much more. And for me, it started off in a kind of quite a dark place. I wasn't doing very well emotionally when I got ill, which is understandable. But yeah, it started off with a lot of confusion and trying to sort of navigate myself around whatever it was that I was going through. And I had a lot of family issues at the time as well, with health as well. And art just gave me sort of a platform to openly express what I was going through without judgment and without explicitly saying it as well. Like, some of these things are so complex that we can't even understand them ourselves, but it's kind of a medium to use to really express what you're going through and process it. So it started off as a way for me to really sift through my emotions and kind of understand what I was going through. But as I kind of grew in my journey with God and kind of that emotional healing, it actually kind of turned into a form of praise and worship to God.
Wow.
So it started off as a kind of sort of darker medium where I was just focusing on my emotions and how I was feeling. And as God kind of worked his way into my heart, it turned into an opportunity for me to praise him and to show gratitude and, yeah, just really worship him. And I often relate my story to Jonah, when he was in the whale. He was going far away from God and he got put in this whale. And it was in the whale that he went through a vast array of emotions, as you can imagine. It started off with bitterness, resentment, confusion, and then in the whale he suddenly just flipped his perspective and he started praising God and singing his praises and saying how wonderful God was. And that was when he was spat out of the whale.
Yeah.
For me, it was the same sort of thing, this ability to express my gratitude to God in the kind of difficult times. And it was a whole process of it, but art has a wonderful way of kind of being a platform to really go through the nitty-gritty stuff in life without perhaps being too harsh and difficult to go through, almost.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Literally, you took me away on a journey as you were speaking there. And I guess, what comes to mind is, you started off in that place of expression, like you said, expressing what you were going through. And I guess my question to you as well, in that context, is now that you are a creative, you create for other people. I'm guessing people make requests of what they want. What is that journey like? Are you still expressing in a way you're trying to paint somebody else's picture this time, or trying to fulfill a requirement? What is that journey like? Is it still you expressing, or is there another way that you, when the work is for somebody else, is there another way that you go through that journey? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. I think it's definitely a very different dynamic because it's no longer on your terms, your terms and conditions. This is how I do my process. This is how I want to express myself. It's no longer that. And it's okay, what are they trying to communicate? You know, I work with a lot of musicians now, which I'm very blessed to do, and a lot of the time they send me their song and they go, okay, create something from this. And you know, it's trying to understand what their song is trying to communicate, what are they trying to say, and trying to tap into that. And it's a whole different process. But I often just like pray that God would speak through it, and you know, that I would be able to really understand what it is that they're trying to do and what God's trying to do through that sort of piece, and try and weave my way in and have that sort of understanding in order to get their vision to come to life. But it is a very, very different process, and it's just that it's less about me and what I'm feeling and what I want to do, and it's trying to tap into the other person and get their vision for it. And yeah, it helps you to be a lot more humble as well, because
Yeah.
I think you get things a lot more wrong when
Yeah.
it's for someone else. If it's not your vision, then you know, it takes a few tries to sort of reach theirs. So it's a very humbling process of, okay, I didn't quite get that right, do it again, do it again, do it again. So it's great, it's great.
No, I love that. So I think from, listening to you, your gifting is very multifaceted. It's not just you, what God has given you. It's not just about you being able to express. He's actually gifted you with the ability to help other people express, what is in them, what they see. Some people like yourself have been blessed with the ability to, grab imagination and paint a physical picture out of it. But some people, they have that imagination, and you're kind of, the hands that brings that to life. So, it sounds to me like it's actually a gift in itself to be able to accurately, or, to the best of your ability, communicate in your paintings, in your art, what somebody else has in mind. So that's amazing, actually. And for me, I think it kind of reminds me of leading worship in a way, where as a worship leader, you there's a time for you to lead yourself in worship. You're expressing your worship unto God, maybe in your room, your private time. But when it comes to leading other people, maybe in a church setting, a public setting, it's not about you anymore. It's about, I am now the vessel, for the atmosphere to be curated for everybody to worship God. That's kind of what it reminds me of. And I think that's an amazing part of creativity that God has placed on the inside of us, for us not just to express for ourselves as creatives, but to have enough compassion, I guess, to have enough, like you said, humility to bring other people into the same experience. So I absolutely love that. Another thing that I was curious to ask you as well is, are there any, as you've been painting over the years, would you say you have certain inspirations, people that inspire you, either in terms of specifically artists, or maybe mentors around you that have encouraged you, maybe friends? Who are the things, or what are the things that have inspired you and kept you going over the years and helped you grow as an artist?
Yeah, I think inspiration can come from anywhere. And as I initially started artwork, it was mainly from the conversations that I had with friends and family, and kind of, I was often motivated by compassion in order to create artwork, because I kind of had a vague understanding of how, doing a piece of artwork could bless another person. And that has been sort of a main motivator for me this entire time. And it actually started off talking to some of my Black friends about their experiences when they were younger, in particular Black girls, just looking at magazines and movies and the dolls that are in the shops, and they said how that tainted their image of themselves, and how it was a real struggle for them growing up because, you know, they were so used to this kind of whitewashed media. And
Mm-hmm.
this was the first time I was really hearing about that, because obviously I'm in the privileged section of society, and it really broke my heart. And I decided, you know, from 16 or however old I was at the time, that I didn't want to add to that when I was using my gifts. So when I started off doing artwork, I decided that I was mainly gonna paint my Black friends and make them feel as beautiful as I see them and how God sees them. And that was my main motivator when I started off, and just trying to show people the beauty that God had given them in their unique, beautiful way, and celebrating their melanin, their curly hair, and all of that sort of stuff. And that brought a lot of healing to the people who are around me, and that kind of set me off. And since then, it's often been just conversations that I've had with people and kind of learning about different people, different cultures, different beliefs, different ways that they see themselves or what they're going through, different testimonies. It's often people's stories that really inspire me and motivate me to work, because, you know, I just want to change things and make things better. And I don't know, it just inspires me a lot to do the work that I do. And in terms of creatives inspiring me, you know, I have on my bookshelf books of incredible artists like Picasso, Da Vinci, William Morris, all these incredible artists. And I love looking through their work and seeing their progression as artists. But the most inspiring artist to me is God. You know, looking through the Bible, you know, his first introduction to himself is in Genesis. In the beginning, God created. You know, that's his first name, creator. And, you know, looking through the Gospels and even the prophecies, you know, just as a child, I remember looking through Ezekiel, and people are always like, why do you enjoy Ezekiel? Like, it's so dark. But I was obviously reading the kids' Bible, so it was a little less intense. But it's always talking about the visions and the angel armies. And I remember being inspired by that when I was little, just trying to imagine God's creation that we can't see yet, and this kind of spiritual realm. And so I think he's my greatest sort of inspiration when it comes to art, just because he has made us to create and to be creative, and kind of tapping into his limitless creativity to inspire us. So he's probably my biggest inspiration when it comes to art, because yeah, just look around, look in the mirror, and it's incredible to see what he's created.
Amazing. Oh, I really, really love that. And I think you're spot on in saying that God is the ultimate source of inspiration. That is so true. He's endless in how much you can get from him. And yeah, I personally have experienced as a creative, you know, if you were to ask me the same question, that would be, you know, my major answers. But yeah, like you said, I think you mentioned Picasso, Da Vinci, and I'm just asking for anybody that may be listening that's thinking, you know, I think I have a gift, but who are the people to look out for as a source of inspiration? So thanks for sharing those as well. And I think another question, just in the same vein, that I wanted to ask was, um, say, you know, you have a request from a client, for example, to paint something, they've kind of communicated to you what they wanted. If you was to start, you know, painting or drawing, you know, what is your process? I know that on Instagram, I've seen some of your reels, you have music blasting in the background and you're really going for it. Um, and I guess, you know, what is your process, and, you know, why that specific process? And have you tried other ways and kind of found the best one for you? I just wanted to, you know, find out more about that in terms of how you get into your work.
Yeah, definitely. I think the most important thing is to just enjoy yourself,
Yeah.
which is why I blast the music. I cannot do a piece of artwork without music. It probably makes the process a tiny bit longer because I, have a dance break or whatever's necessary. But I think it's just so important to enjoy yourself when you're doing art or anything creative, and to just really get into your own sort of zone. And I've met loads of different creatives. Some people, light a candle, they need to feel inspired by the scents that are around them, or some people need really serene music going on, just whatever really fits you. And for me, I've kind of developed a little routine that I always kind of roughly go by when I'm creating. And a lot of the time it starts off with worship music, just to kind of consecrate the piece that I'm doing to God, and just to push it back to Him, and just say, okay, I'm going to start off with God. And then later on it kind of transitions into whatever other music I want to listen to, jumps to Afro beats, something like that, something crazy. But it always starts off with worship, and then I go on, and often depends on the type of piece that I'm doing, depending on what I kind of feel like listening to. But that's often how I kind of set the mood and just make sure that I'm enjoying myself. And yeah,
Okay.
I think that's about it.
Yeah, thank you. Along the same lines as well, another thing I wanted to ask is, what would you say is your favorite piece of work that you've done, or maybe the most significant, or one that is just really special to you? It could be something that, has been just from you expressing, or maybe for someone else that you did it for. Yeah. Which one would you say is the most significant for you, or the most sentimental?
Oh, okay. So a while back, well, it wasn't that long ago actually, I did a Bible project which God put on my heart to do. And it was basically all inspired by God. He put an image in my head every morning of a different figure in the Bible, and sort of challenged me to recreate the image that I saw in my head. And it was a very kind of interesting, humbling process, because I had no idea what I was doing the whole time. And as the project kind of came to a close, I finished on Mary of Bethany. And it was the moment where she just finished pouring out her perfume on Jesus's feet, and kind of came into that sort of place of worship, just in awe of who Jesus was, and just wanted to pour out everything to him. And I was very emotionally exhausted after doing this piece, because I was, it takes so much out of you to paint, and to paint something that's so raw as that just emotionally did me. I was spent. But I felt God tell me afterwards, He was like, this is how I see you when you do your artwork. You've poured out something that's so costly, so expensive, just for my worship, just to exalt me and to glorify me. That's how I see you when you paint. And I just bawled my eyes out. And it was just the most beautiful moment, because I finally saw how God sees me when I create. It's this beautiful, raw moment where I'm just giving everything I have into worshiping God. And so that piece definitely has a special place in my heart, just because it was such a beautiful moment between me and God.
Oh, that is so amazing. I actually remember the moment the first time I saw that the series of those paintings. I remember going, wow. And I could really see it wasn't just, oh, this is my version of this Bible character. It was, I don't know how to express how I felt when I saw them. I can't remember if that was the first time I sent you a comment or a message, but I actually remember very clearly when I saw those paintings. I was like, I have to get in touch with this Naomi. This is so powerful. I could literally feel, God's presence and power through those paintings. So yes, it's really stands out to me as well in terms of your work. And I'm glad I remember seeing it as a PDF. You created a book out of it as well. And I know so many more people will be impacted by those paintings. So thanks for sharing that with us
Thank
today.
you.
And I guess and as we're rounding up, a question that comes to mind is, do you have a community around you that you would say helps or inspires you? I just mean in terms of creatives. I tend to find that a lot of creatives operate solo. They may not feel like they fit in many circles or many places, and sometimes that can be a struggle for some creatives, and also being understood, being accepted. I find that a lot of creatives mentally struggle with that. So for yourself, would you say that that has been a struggle, or if it hasn't, how would you advise a creative that is maybe seeking a community, or seeking a place to just feel, accepted, for who they are, however different they may be?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we're so blessed in this age. I know that sounds like such an old person thing to say, but to have social media, this amazing platform that we can use to reach out to people who would never originally have contact with. We can do that with simply just hashtags. Just kind of, it's almost like, fishing
Yeah.
for people who are similar than you. So I think, yeah, most of my creative community is within social media, and I'm very blessed to know personally like professional photographers and stuff like that who have helped me on my creative journey and sent me links that they think would be helpful and stuff like that. But most of the kind of contacts that I kind of created is all through social media and just kind of fishing for people who are sort of like-minded.
Mm.
And that's how we came into contact as well. So yeah, I think it's really useful. And I think the way that I started doing that was by using my passion of, loving music and just doing artistic responses to some of the music that I listened to. And, I drew some of my favorite musicians and just put it out, and, Christian musicians. And a lot of them kind of got back to me. And that's how I got, how I started doing this, music covers for different artists and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just getting yourself out there and not being too scared to reach out, because it's not weird to, comment under someone's post
Yeah.
or DM them and just, hey, I'm, trying to find a bit of community here. Like,
Mm.
do you want to stay in touch? It's not creepy, it's not weird. It's just a lovely way of just creating a bit of a community.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that. I totally agree. It can be daunting to, reach out to someone you don't know, you've never spoken to before. And I guess we can always pray for boldness if that's a struggle. Um,
Mm,
ask God for the boldness, but sometimes it takes stepping out and you just never know the opportunities that would come. And I love what you said about sometimes just painting your favorite artists and, they would reach out to you. So collaboration is powerful. Not being afraid to say, hey, I'm gonna do my version of that person's piece, or do my own expression of that person's piece. And yeah, you never know what, connection, community can come from that. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, Naomi. um to round up, I also wanted to ask about, back to, I guess, the beginning when you were speaking, crossing over from expressing for yourself to, kind of taking orders from clients. So did that process for you? How did that process for you come about? You know, going from I'm just painting for this is what God is laying on my heart to okay, now I'm trying to paint for somebody else. You know, there's a fee involved. You know, you're now my client. You know, how did you make that transition from I'm just a creative to oh now I'm an entrepreneur and I'm trying to run a business as well? Because I know that a lot of creatives, they have the craft solid, but in terms of being a business person or meeting the demand, it's not always a smooth transition and it's not always an easy process. So yeah, just to hear a bit about your experience on that.
Yeah, definitely. Making the jump from sort of casual art to professional is a big jump, especially for a creative, because often creativity and business kind of clash in many ways. You know, you want to be free, yet you're setting conditions, and it's a real like weighing scale, really. And I think it's all to do with timing. You know, for me, it was very important for me to just practice my craft, and to lay the right foundations that I wanted to have for a career. And I definitely wasn't in a rush to get things going. I just wanted to really, really just lay the right foundations for me. And then I kind of just very easily just put myself out there very slowly, by doing those sorts of artist responses, as you will, of those musicians, and just put myself out there, and yeah, just getting myself out there a bit. And I definitely did it very cautiously, because I was very scared to kind of get myself out there in this way, because it's a big world, this creative world. Yeah. In terms of budgets and, you know, charging people, it was I'm still learning how to do that. If I could, I would do everything for free. It just seems so much easier. But, when you're going out and you're making this your profession, you need to be strict with yourself, and you need to be like, okay, this takes me time. And not only does it take me time, but the amount of years that I've put into this of practice, and how I've studied, and the materials that are going into this, you need to value yourself as an artist and as a creative, and really, it's horrible to put a price on your head, but you deserve it. You deserve to get paid for what you're doing, and kind of seeing yourself worthy of that is so important. Don't give work away for free. You may start out by doing that, but you do need to get out of that cycle eventually, because you're worth it. So I started off just by doing commissions for people that I knew really well, and that really encouraged me, because a lot of the time they wanted to be generous, and it built up my confidence to be like, yes, I am worthy of being paid for this. And then as I kind of got into that routine of doing things for other people and getting paid for it, then I went on and did things for people who I never met before, and I had a bit more confidence to set a price and to negotiate with them. You get people who are very much like, oh, we'll whittle this down, but actually standing your ground and be like, no, this is how much I'm going to charge. This is why, take it or leave it, and kind of building up that confidence. But I think it definitely is something that continually needs to build as you progress in your craft. And I don't think it should ever stop building. I think, you want your trajectory to go up. You want to progress in your craft, and just continually willing to build that up and to build your confidence, and to, as you progress in your craft and you get better at what you're doing, to continually up it, and not to be scared or ashamed of doing that.
Yeah, I love that. And I love what you said about knowing your worth, knowing your value. And I think that's one of the other crucial things about community. If you are really struggling with that, for example, if you've made a connection with somebody doing something similar, you could, easily ask, given the relationship, hey, this is the amount I'm charging. What do you think about that?
Mm,
Because I know, as you can probably relate, that it can actually be a real struggle. Google sometimes doesn't do it. You really struggle to put a price on what you're offering, and sometimes you're
mm,
thinking, oh, is that too expensive? Ooh, am I being exploited? So yeah, like you said, it's a
yeah.
journey of understanding. And I think also, um being aware of the fact that you need to continuously invest in yourself, and sometimes that take you
Mm,
spending money. So if you're continuously doing things for free, you're not able to invest back in yourself and build yourself up. So I think
mm,
it's definitely a crucial one. So thank you so much for sharing that with us,
yeah. And
Naomi.
I think a really great piece of advice that I had when I was starting off is, in terms of pricing, if it doesn't make you uncomfortable, it's probably not the right price.
Mm,
You've got to put yourself out there and make yourself a bit uncomfortable in how much you're pricing for your artwork, because although you not may not see it as that valuable, other people who don't have the same giftings as you really see it as something pricey, because they can't do the work that you're doing. So, make yourself a bit uncomfortable when you're putting a price out there, because you're worth a lot more than you think you are.
yeah, I agree. Definitely, and it's so true. Thank you so much, Naomi. Is there anything else that you would like to, maybe share with us, with somebody listening, maybe that has a similar gifting to yourself as an artist, a digital um artist? Is there anything else that you would want to say to someone listening right now?
Yeah. Don't let fear prevent you from getting your art out there.
Mm,
So many times we can get caught up in, what will people think of me? What if I'm not that good? What if? But really, just putting your art out there, even if you're a right beginner, just do it. There's no harm in it, and you don't know who you're going to bless by putting your art out there. There could be someone who really needs to see your artwork and to be blessed by it, and there's no harm in it, and you're inspiring other people to go on and create. And I think, I was stifled by fear for such a long time, and it wasn't until, my my sixth form friends got my phone off me and just posted a piece of artwork on my behalf, until I actually kind of had the confidence to get my art out there. And if they hadn't have done that, I probably wouldn't be here. So don't be stifled by fear, but pray for boldness. Get that confidence to just put yourself out there, because it isn't as scary as you think it is.
thank you. I think what came to mind as well when you were speaking is how important it is to let our confidence come from God as well. Um,
Mm,
Having the understanding that this is a gift from God, He approves of this, and He's placed our giftings in us, not just for us ourselves, but for other people. That the Bible says that we should seek the spiritual gifts that edifies everybody else, not just edifying ourselves. And just understanding that this gift is not just for me, is for those around me as well, and letting that confidence come from God. I think, just to
mm,
add to what you said, fear can be crippling when something is very close to your heart, it is very special, you express that, and laying it out there for the world to see can be daunting. But yeah, your advice has been so spot on today, Naomi. I'm so grateful for your presence today on this podcast, and I look forward to working with you more in the future.
yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation, and have a wonderful day. Bye,
You
everyone. Thank you for
too.
listening. Bye.
Bye.